Alrighty, hello everybody, my name is Cogline3639. I am here at the Albuquerque Regional and I am here with...
Spencer Oresman.
And what did you do today, Spencer?
I got 4th place at the Albuquerque Regional.
And what deck did you do it with today?
I did it with Nightmare Griffinless Malice.
Cool, alright, any shout outs before we get to the deck profile?
Let's see, shout out to the 505. Shout out to Josh for almost ruining the deck profile for us. And for being the only person who beat me today. And shout out to T-Jark and STD for helping me figure out a whole bunch of stuff about the deck previously. And finally, shout out to Loon Retreat, the best Yugioh custom card server there is.
Alrighty, let's get to the deck profile.
Alrighty, so because we're playing Malice, relatively little is different. So we played 3 of every name. And usually the only reason you wouldn't play 3 of every name is if you are either playing a smaller deck, because I played 42 cards, and if you also are not playing enough extenders to make it so that any name plus extender gives you whatever combo you want to do. But in my case, I played all 3 names. Some people play 2 Chessie. I saw one list the other day where someone was playing 1 of this. Something's wrong with that guy. He wasn't even playing Fiendsmith cards to make that decent. Anyway, and then the secondary MVPs were the Bestials. And a lot of people were cutting them down to like 5 Bestials. I can't do it. I just can't do it. The Bestials are absolutely broken cards. The fact that they are a free body, potential interruption, and extension all in one is ridiculous. Although they are not as good versus pure as, say, other hand traps, they still have their uses, and even in the mirror, if you draw Baldrake plus Druisworm, and you do it at the right time, you can completely cut them off of a Link 3. So that's it for those. Then for the actual hand traps, we played just these for the monster hand traps. So Ash was crazy. I drew this card once when I could actually resolve it, and the one time I resolved it, I lost that game. It was the finals. And then I had to win game 2, despite actually, funny thing, I resolved it twice. Still couldn't win that game 2. Anyway, that's it for the monsters. Now on to the spells. We played 3 field spell. I mean, some people were cutting this to 2 because it's the worst name to draw besides Chessie. But it is also an extender. It's a little bit like a Bestial, but not quite. It is a Bestial that gets you a mouse from deck sometimes. Pretty freaking good. And then we played, for our final 3 of, we played 3 Metaltronus. This card is broken. There's no other way to describe this card. The fact that you can... the fact that it's extremely good in the mirror. It has random targets versus Blue Eyes. It has targets versus Crystron. It has targets versus freaking Ryziel, obviously, because to the point that a lot of people are playing Detonator, which, spoiler alert, playing Detonator so I can Metaltronus it away. And one of the games that actually the one game that I lost, I misplayed like an actual Bonobo. I had Metaltronus. I drew it for a turn. I could have gotten rid of his 4-mat Detonator. I decided, you know what, I'm going to wait for him to draw a card and see what he has. Draw phase, Metaltronus, Ash. Oops. What's wrong with me? And then for the last couple spells, I played 4 1-ofs, which were Talents and Thrust. Oh, 5 1-ofs, my bad. I don't even know my own deck list. And basically just these. So Terraforming, extra copy, extra extender, makes it easier to play 3 Chessie, which means more consistency overall. Goldsark is a starter and an extender, just like Terraforming. Called by was insane whenever I drew it, except for the 2 times it got Feather Dustered. And in round 2 versus Malice, it's game 3, I'm going first. He goes Lancia, chain called by. Second Lancia, chain cross out. I felt so bad. Anyway, but these were honestly the stars of the spells. So Talents, that's Talents. They're the same card. Anyway, the point is, Thrust was only in the main deck because I needed to play 42 cards for side space and for certain side patterns to maximize both consistency and actual chances of drawing playable non-engine versus whatever matchups I might hope to face. This also sets Malice Traps, Imperm, Dominus Impulse, Sometimes you can set talents, sometimes you add terraforming, sometimes you add gold sark. Sometimes you get to just win the game because your thrust is live. It's crazy. And then talents I drew with it, I hand ripped with it, I stole people's monsters with it. The card is just good. So that's it for the spells. Whoop. Now on to the traps. Obviously, the Maliss traps. The only thing of note with the Maliss traps is when you side them out and if you side them out. In the mirror, or going second, I would usually side this out because I don't usually want to draw it going second. It's okay. It's not the greatest. In the mirror, I'd often side both MTP and TB11 out if I was going second because I do not want to draw them and I need GWC for grind. But apart from, and then versus like other decks, sometimes you alternate, like you keep these two or you keep these two or you keep all three sometimes. It depends. Not too much to say about the Maliss traps though. They're all really good. And also, why does this card gain me LP? Why am I allowed to win in time for no reason? Granted, I went into time in battle phase once with like 10,000 LP and my opponent had like 5k. Because why does it get anywhere? And then for the traps, we played 3 Impulse and 3 Imperm. Now, these are not the impulses that I borrowed for today because I don't own impulses. These are Santi's impulses, but the impulses that I borrowed for today were Santiago Armijos. These were the MVP. These cards, because I faced, most of my matchups were Maliss. This card destroys Maliss. You can use it against so many things, and because I play the deck, I can see kind of what lines people are going for. It's just crazy. And also Thrust, you said Impulse, you win. Although, in round 2, game 2, I misplayed like an actual bonobo. I had Thrust, I set the Impulse in an Imperm column. I go Impulse, he goes Imperm, target my monster. Shoot!
Alrighty, what was the main deck total?
The main deck total was 42 cards.
I feel like you said that at the beginning.
Yeah, I did say it at the beginning. No, you're good. Finally, the extra deck. So, obviously, the Queens. So, I made this once. I probably should have made it in at least one other game. I made this every game. Literally every single game I made Whitebinder, even after getting Lanciad, which, as an aside, I got Lanciad 5 times across 7 matches. It only resolved against me once. God, no wonder I got top 4. Anyway, then this is, honestly, she was the MVP of the extra deck because people forgot the little parenthetical piece of text where if she points to a monster, the effect to banish cannot be negated, or neither can the activation be negated. It's really strong. Round 1, I was versus Tyr. He used Droplet wrong. He dropleted this. It didn't work. In round 4, which I still lost, but it was game 2. Josh sends X and Aggregator, targets this. He makes Duo Drive. Then he activates Duo Drive to search. Crypto effect, banish it. We did a judge call because he didn't understand how it works. The judge didn't actually know how it works, which, to his credit, he thought it worked like Melodious Baka, but that got cleared up quickly. And it turns out this card is ridiculous. But those are the Queens. Now for the Link 2s. I played a lot of Link 2s. I actually played 7 Link 2s. And I summoned every single one of them, at least once. Dark is good in the mirror because it's dark. I crashed into it, added a Malice name once. Nightmare Cerberus is an out to Chaos Hunter. I never used it for that. I used it to kill someone's monsters. IP, I made this twice because it's an interruption and sometimes it lets you make your cards indestructible. Made SP a lot. I summoned SP off Metaltronus once. That was hilarious. It's SP. It's one of the best extra deck monsters ever printed. Splash Mage I made it a couple times. Although in the final round I screwed up. I should have made Lizardos instead. And I got Cyber's Locked where I could have made an ABQ. It didn't matter. I won anyway. It's fine. And then I played Nightmare Phoenix. Nightmare Phoenix was really good at letting me force stuff. This card is great. And then Lizardos. I heard one guy say he wanted to cut this. I don't know. I understand why, because if it gets ogred, you hate your life. But you need ways to play. You just need ways to play. And finally, We have a Link 1, Link Decoder. You have to play it. It's an honorary Maliss name. It's Link Decoder. It's really good. And finally, for the Link Force, we played Access Code, Firewall Dragon, and ABQ. Now, the obvious thing that is missing is Nightmare Griffin. Why didn't I play Nightmare Griffin? The short answer is the only thing I like about Nightmare Griffin is the draw and resetting of a trap. Like, obviously, resetting Impulse, really freaking good. But what I've noticed is that when I would play Griffin, I would tunnel on it and I would lose. So I decided to cut it, and I started valuing the versatility more, which is the reason why I'm playing Firewall Dragon. In the games that I summoned it did one of two things. It either bounced the opponent's monsters, got revived of IBQ to bounce again, or it added back Bestials to keep playing, or to play past the opponent's attempts at establishing a board. I made her twice. She's alright. Like, okay. She is weird because she forces you to discard cards, and this deck often discards their entire freaking hand to play because you get interrupted, you have to use an extender, you get interrupted again, use another extender. You rarely have spare cards for this. But when you do, she is extremely good. If I was playing Phoenix Smith, she'd be the MVP. And
then obviously the detonator as well.
And yeah, I forgot about the detonator, which I spoiled it.
Yeah.
Literally just a Metaltronus target. Funnily enough, I summoned this versus an ice once. That was funny. It worked, but there you go. But that's the extra deck. And finally, the stuff that I think actually won me games was the side deck. So, 3 draw. I didn't play against anything this was good against, except final round, and I sided in game 2, didn't see it, sided out going first. But I have to play it. If I had seen Pure Ryzeal, I would have had to play it. Then the card that came up the most was Lancia, because obviously the mirror, it has applications versus other decks like Crystron and even Memento, because Memento needs to banish their cards to search a lot of the time. But I resolved this most of the time when I drew it. It almost never resolved against me, and the only reason it almost never resolved against me is because of Called by the Grave and the MVP of the side deck, Crossout Designator, which is the reason my deck was 42 cards, because I want to side this in going first versus the mirror, because I can cross out any number of things. I can cross out a Dormouse, which actually came up a couple times, crossing out a Trap, crossing out any Maliss card in your main deck, really, and especially Lancia. And then the secondary stars were the thrust targets. So this was the card that I was struggling really hard to fit in because I was really, really scared of Mermail. I didn't face Mermail today. The only deck that I sided this in versus, besides Phoenix with Ryzeal, was a Ogdoatic Mitsurugi deck, and I resolved it against him. It should have been D-Barrier. It should have been D-Barrier. I still won, it didn't matter, but it should have been D-Barrier. So this card, in hindsight, it should have been maybe Artifact Sanctum or a second Lightning Storm. But, it's whatever. D-Barrier is D-Barrier. It's D-Barrier. I never resolved it. Harpies, I resolved a couple times. I never got into Lightning Storm, so it would have been the same, but I drew Harpies more. Harpies is good versus back row. It's not perfect versus Odeon, but I wasn't really playing it for Odeon exactly. I was playing it to eliminate back row, because if you use it versus the mirror, they have to pop their spells and traps immediately. They often set things like Dominus Impulse. They often set things like Metaltronus. They set things like Imperm. You don't want to face those in the mirror because those are the only points of interaction on their board that actually hurt you. And I guess that's about it.
Alrighty, congratulations on the top, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.